I got the record logo on my screen, Karen.
Yep, so.
So we're live now?
We are live.
Okay. So welcome anybody who's joining us. We'll get started here shortly when we get to 7 o'clock.
Well, Harley Davidson mug, eh, Dan?
Yeah, yeah. I don't have the bike anymore, but I kept the mug.
You get the feeling through that, eh, Mike? Here, you're Dan.
Yeah, the wind through my hair.
Okay, I think we're.
Free, but how much did you have to pay for the mug?
Yeah, just about as much as the bike.
Okay, I think we're at 7 o'clock, so I think we might as well get this ball rolling. We'll call the meeting, tonight's Committee of Adjustment meeting to order, and we'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest on any items on tonight's agenda. I have none. Councillor McCabe,
I have none.
Councillor Yake,
None.
Councillor Burke,
No.
and Councillor Hearn's vanished from my screen. Oh, there you are. Any pecuniary interest this evening, Lisa?
I can't hear her.
Are you still with us, Lisa?
I need to recuse myself from the 8520. No.
Okay.
I need
That's
to
the second
recuse
application.
myself from A520.
Okay.
Sorry, what is the nature of your interest, Lisa? I think we're having.
As I'm a member of the Normal Farm Practices Protection Board.
Okay. So we'll, you can excuse yourself once we get completed the first application then, Councillor Hearn?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move on to our minutes from the previous meeting. So this is the Committee of Adjustment, June 8th, 2020. And a recommendation here that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes of June 8th, 2020, A5/20 and A06/20 be adopted as presented. Need a mover and a seconder for that. Sherry, you want to move that?
Sure.
And Dan, second it?
Yep.
All those in favor, or sorry, any questions in regards to those minutes? All those in favor then?
I think.
Lisa, did you have a question?
Question?
I think it was Karen.
No, Lisa had her hand up. Did you have a question on those minutes, Lisa? Frozen.
Okay, I'm going to call the motion anyways. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, our first application this evening, A04/20 for Enoch Martin. And the,
No. Yes. Get that?
sorry, Lisa, I heard something, but I didn't catch it.
It wasn't me. Sorry.
Okay.
On mute.
Okay, the owner applicant in this case is Enoch Martin. The location of the subject land is described as concession 14, west part lot 17 is municipally known as 8691 Highway 89, geographic township of West Luther. Property is approximately 40.64 hectares in size, and location is shown on the map in your package. Purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from the maximum floor area requirements for a proposed home industry for welding and machine shop on the subject property. The proposed variances will permit an increased floor area of 371.6 meters squared, where the zoning bylaw permits a maximum floor area of 232.25 meters squared. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How was notice given for this meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, as well as to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on June 23rd, 2020.
Okay, thank you. Linda, are you with us? Can you give us an update on this application?
Hi, yes, through you, Mr. Chair. The application is to permit a home industry building on the property. There is currently an existing structure there now. My understanding is they're adding on some floor area to the 800 square feet of floor area to the existing 3,200 foot building, and they would like to use that building for a welding and machine shop operation. It is a farm. It is 100 acres, and it falls under the home industry provisions, as well as what we would consider an on-farm diversified use under the PPs. The farm use that they're proposing is to the construction of silo unloaders, custom welding for silo unloader parts, loading dock bumper, clearly a farm type use. We have no concerns with the use. The building itself is much larger than what the home and industry provisions permit. It'll be 1,500 square feet bigger than what's generally permitted, but given the type of work they're doing in there, we recognize that there's probably a bit more space needed just simply because of the types of machinery they're working on. So we understand the size. We have no concerns with the request, and we are.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further correspondence been received in respect to this application? Karen, you're muted.
Other than what is listed on the agenda, we have received no further correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Is there any persons present who wish to make comments on this application? I'll ask again, anybody present who wishes to make comments in regard to this application? Okay, not hearing any. I'll ask if there's any comments or questions from the committee. Councillor McCabe.
So this is ag related as it stands, Linda. How do, going forward and say this passes, how do we know that it's always going to be ag related and they don't go into even a more industrial type of weld shop and machine shop that could perhaps not supply the ag industry at all? What's the, how do you police that, so to speak?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the PPS permits secondary ag uses as well as on-farm diversified. So technically this use would fall under either one. So even if they change the use on the property to, it's still welding and woodworking or some other type of item, not a farm-related item, that would still be acceptable as an on-farm diversified use, because that's the whole point of it, is they're diversifying, they're doing other things as well as their farming. So in terms of that, it's fine. Where we would be able to control the size and scale of it is through the home industry provisions in the zoning bylaw, which restricts the size of the building, which restricts the number of employees, and does limit the uses somewhat. So there is still that, the zoning bylaw is still applicable. So if it turns into a business that isn't something that would be permitted in that area, then that would become an enforcement issue. But on-farm diversified does allow other uses that are not farm related.
Okay.
Steve, go ahead.
And you had said that, from 4,000 to 20, or from 2,500 to 4,000, that's quite a jump. And the county has no problem with that?
No, we've seen numerous on-farm uses that exceed that 2,500 square feet, and oftentimes it's usually businesses that, just by virtue of the type of uses they're, say, repairing or building or doing, they need the storage space because they're big. Not that it's a big business, but that what they're working on is big.
And the size of the equipment.
Basically, or the finished product, or whatever the situation may be. Woodworking is another one where you see bigger buildings because there's and what have you, and also sometimes the machinery they use is just big.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the committee? No. Okay, seeing no more, then we'll just call the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's carried. So that's approved. Anyone wishing notice of the decision must request in writing by contacting the clerk. And so that brings us to the end of our first application. So we'll move to A5/20. And we'll get started with that. The owner applicant in this case is Garrett Ryan and Janica Decker. The location of the subject property is described as Divisions 1 and 2, Lot 15, West Owen Sound Road, geographic Township of Arthur, with a civic address of 9356 Highway 6. Subject land is approximately 40 hectares, and location of the property is shown on the map attached. And the purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from the minimum side yard setback for proposed bunker silo feed storage. The proposed variances will permit a reduced side yard setback of 4.5 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 18.3 meters for accessory building to an agricultural use. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. I just would add, this is, we've seen this one before. We just didn't make a decision the last time, so we're going to have to get to a final proper decision this evening. How was notice given for this meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, as well as being mailed to applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on June 23rd, 2020.
Okay, thank you. Linda, you want to give us the rundown on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So basically, this is to permit a structure. It's a roof structure. I just would like to add, it's basically an unroofed structure with a 4-foot wall is really what's going at this point. So to have a reduced setback. So they need they're asking for a reduced setback to 4.5 meters. The required setback is 18.3. Any building, farm building. It's to store feed that's already being stored in that location. They just want to contain it, I suppose you could say. We have no concerns with the request, and meet all the requirements in our opinion other than the setback.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
Other than what is listed on the agenda, no. There's been correspondence that's listed on the agenda from Noah and Verna Martin, who object. Francis and John McIver, no objection. The Normal Farm Practices Board, just a letter sent to Mr. Benson. Andrew Berry from OMAFRA, and Scott Hartle, Dairy Farmers of Ontario, in support.
Okay, thank you. Is there any persons present who wish to make comments in respect to this application?
Okay, so I have pre-registered Kent Benson.
Okay.
And he's shown on there 3 times, and then Mr. Decker. So I'm going to move them to participant status that will permit them to speak. Mr. Noah Martin also had called in. Talk.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Mr. Benson,
Yeah,
I need you to pick one device that you want to speak through.
I'm trying to speak with my Android phone, but what I have to do, my picture's not coming up.
Well, I'm just gonna. Okay, can you unmute yourself on one of your devices?
Okay, yeah.
There, I think that's better. Mr. Decker, I have moved also to participant status.
Yeah. I'm here.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Okay, so we have Mr. Benson, Mr. Martin, and Mr. Decker.
Okay, well, let's start with it in that order. Mr. Benson, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
Okay. I'm totally against this bunker salad because, as most of you know, we're having an issue right now with the manure tank that's too close to our property. And where this proposed bunker silo is going to go, it's going to be in direct line with our house. And that's the problem right now with the manure tank, is a direct line to our house. So when we sit at our kitchen table, that's all we're going to see out there is the manure tank and this proposed bunker silo. It's not like there's enough. There's quite a bit. There's 85 acres there's 98 acres on this farm. I don't know why everything has to be piled in front of our house. So we can't, to expect to stall our view across the road. And everything seems to be placed in line. So that's what, and why wasn't there a minor variance applied for before most of the cement work was done? Apparently you don't need a permit to pour a pad, but there was rebar put in place where the silo walls are going to go. I thought there was laws in place so nobody does go ahead and start a project without going through the proper channels. It's just like putting the cart before the horse. And in most cases, a minor variance is only a few feet, but in this case, they're asking 45 feet, which I don't know why they need that much space for, because there's 98 acres, there's lots of room on this property to put a bunker silo. And I know council has received pictures of what's going on here, and the pictures clearly indicate that the project was clearly started before a minor variance was applied for. I have no issues with Mr. Decker building a bunker silo, but don't put buildings in direct line to my house and affect our lifestyle. And I would like to remind council that this meetings are being taped, and so your decision will be seen as whether you're serious about turning down a project that was started before the proper procedure was taken. And we've already had an issue with the first bunker silo being put in already about a month ago, when the first time they filled it. Mr. Decker has custom operators, and there was a huge amount of dust coming across the road onto our property. I don't think we should have to put up with this, and if the more bunker silos are put up, we'll just create more dust for us right now. I don't know why we should have to put up with buildings that are directly in line with our house. Our house was here before these buildings went up, but it seems to be, we always seem to take the brunt of what's going on here. And that's all I have to say right now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin, did you want to make some comments?
I don't think I've got anything more to say other than the letter that I had sent in last time. I haven't got anything else besides that. Have you got a copy of my letter?
We did receive a copy. Yes, thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay. All members of council do have a copy of the letter in their agenda package that they can refer to.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Decker, I think you're on the line. Did you want to make any comments?
Yeah, well, where do I start? It's an whole story here from Ken Benson. With the direct in line, like the manure pit is not direct in line with his house either. It's like 2/3 of the manure pit is still past his house. Yeah, my bunker silos are going to be in line with his house, yes, but that's nothing illegal on that. I pay for that land, so I should be able to use it the way I want it there too. Once things get stripped down and everything, there will be less dust anyway. So I don't see much of an issue there. Last time we had a whole story there about the manure pit and the normal farm practice board. I think all of you have probably read the letter that the farm practice board has sent to Ken Benson. And so he's talking about that I put the bucket in front of the horse or something like that with pouring the concrete pad there, but I think he should have checked the facts last time. So he's the one that puts the buggy in front of the horse here, and not I am. So other than that, the feed stores have been there, and if the wall is not going to be poured there, then I still going to put feet up there anyway. So it's not going to be changing much. It's only 4 feet that's going to be in the ground. The other comment on there of the argument was against it last time, but it is not necessarily to put them there. I think Scott Hartle made a pretty good letter from his perspective why it is necessary that we're going to put them there and why we keep the feed storage all together there. I mean, the tower silo was already there when I came here on the farm, and my protein pins already too, so there's not much change about that. And moving my bunkers out behind the barn or whatever, I get huge trouble in the wintertime with snow and everything too. So that's that doesn't work. So I hope I took some concerns that were there the last time on the meeting. I hope I'm going to take them away, like regarding the normal farm practice protection board there and about whether it's necessary or not. So I hope if there's any questions, I would like to answer them there still.
Okay, thank you. So I'm now going to turn to questions or comments from the committee. Any members of the committee have questions or comments? Councillor McCabe. You're muted there, Steve.
Sorry, I muted it because my internet's not that stable yet. Karen, I guess I have just a quick question for you on the 4 tests that make up a minor variance and how as a council we are supposed to approach this as a possible separate item than what's in front of the normal farm practices board right now.
I can speak to that, or I know the mayor's prepared to speak to that as well. Or
Linda, whoever is deemed, just to help explain our spot, I suppose.
So why don't I give you the 4 very high level, and if you have further questions, then perhaps Linda can answer them. The Planning Act establishes the following 4 tests must be applied to every application for a minor variance. First is the variance minor. Is the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw maintained? Is the general intent and purpose of the official plan maintained? And is the variance desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure? All 4 tests must be met for the application to be successful.
Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, Karen. And then in regards to the letters that are in our package, and specifically the one from Andrew Barry, it's clear that this is, as much as I don't like to say it, a separate issue. We can't.
So you mean about the manure silo or the manure tank?
We can't vote on this with the pit silo in the back of our minds. Is that right?
That is what they are saying in their correspondence.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Councillor Burke.
I just wanted to reconfirm with Mr. Decker that his comments just a couple seconds ago about the bunker silos, and should the variance not be granted, will he relocate those on his property, or will he just use the constructed pad to continue storing the feed outdoors?
Okay, Mr. Decker, do you wish to respond to that?
Yeah, I will store part of the feed on the concrete pad, without the walls. And I'm not sure where I'm gonna go with all the existing feet. Whether in the future I'm gonna build bunkers right up by the road here without a minor variance and probably get in trouble with the neighbors again. Or I'm not sure. There is not much choice. I'm not gonna go behind the manure pit there. It's really low there too. And my runoff water from the barns and everything is going there too. And I don't want to have a chance of flooding my bunker silos. There is for $200,000 on feed value in there. And I'm not going to waste that by a risk of flood or anything. So I have not 100% sure decided on that, what I'm going to do. But that concrete pad is going to use somehow anyway with feed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burke, did you have anything further?
Not at this time.
Okay, any other questions or comments from committee? Okay, I would just add the comment that, you know, if you've driven past there, you'll realize that there's been feed stored there on the ground for a number of years in a pile, whereas I think a bunker silo, from my experience, is far superior in terms of not only feed quality, but less challenges with the visual of it, and less challenges with the odor and water as well. So to me, a bunker silo is a far superior option from storing the feed on the ground, which has been what's been in practice recently. And I guess I'll ask if there's any other questions or comments from the committee. If not, we'll move to a vote. Any,
can I say one more question of comment?
we're moved on to this section of the agenda. Councillor Burke.
Yeah, so I just have a question with regards to procedural precedent. What kind of precedent are we setting with the construction already started? I understand it's not a reason to deny, but it definitely does open future issues regarding minor variance with it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So I'm going to, before the vote happens, I'm going to let you know that I still don't believe that this variance is minor in nature at a quarter of the distance, and the requirements could be met without the variance. Should one business efficiencies come over the desirability in relation to neighboring properties? In my opinion, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Can I
If
speak?
not, then
So
who have we got?
Kent Benson.
Okay, we're ready to vote here, but what do you have to say?
Well, I can't see why this should get passed, because if you start a project before you do the minor variance, what's the point of having root laws in the township? So the next time somebody else just goes ahead and starts a project, and so you're going to say to him, you did wrong because you didn't stop this what went on here. This is not very fair. People starting projects and they know there's rules to follow, and Mr. Decker never followed no rules. And you can't tell me his intent wasn't to put walls there, because the pictures I sent you shows he puts rebar up into the cement pad. So his intent all along was to put a bunker silo there. So I don't know why we have laws for the township that only certain people are going to follow and the rest of us to get away with it. That's all I want to say now.
Okay, thank you.
So before we call the vote, I'm going to take the people who wanted to speak off as participants. So the only people left will be the committee. Are we ready for that? Yep.
I think so, yeah. Let me know when you're ready, Karen.
Yep, just give me one more. All right.
Okay, so it's time for the vote, so I'll call all those in favor of approving this minor variance. Okay, those opposed? That's 3-1. The motion carried. The application is approved. So any persons wishing notice of the decision must request in writing by contacting the clerk. And that brings us to our adjournment tonight. So I need a mover and a seconder for adjournment, moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Burke, that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of July 6, 2020 be adjourned at 7:31 p.m. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.